just barely catches it. Now Limon is going to try and overtake on Fonseca. Fonseca gives that one up, almost a little too wide there for Limon. Holds tough and sending it deep around the banking, and Shell Oil, he's going to take the spot back. Fonseca, that was a brilliant move. This is full drift here from the Japanese driver. Watch this. Unreal. That car should not be still going. That is just seat-of-your-pants stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it just kind of landed a little bit wrong for him, but fortunately, at least pointed in the right direction. This was crazy, though.
And hasn't been shaken, but man, is he close to that wall.
Look at it. Look at the oversteer. He looks to the inside. Michael tried to cover off. He's going to squeeze him down a little bit. Tries to open up the corner. Cut back and see if he can get the launch, and it's much quicker off. Oh, but he covers him down to the inside.
Oh my goodness, covers him down to the inside. I think there may have been a little bit of contact there, but Michael Johnson going to get the benefit of the draft here. You can see him closing down on the back of the 79. And there's the late move from Michael going down to the inside, trying to get into the braking zone.
The red mist is up for these two, and down into the braking. Can Johnson get it done? Yes, he does. Don't count out Travis. Tries to cut back. Goes the long way around. Nothing doing. No, he holds tight. He could try and get it in there. No, now he starts to fall back.
Starts to fall back. Going to try to send it a little bit on the outside of 15. Sometimes you can get a crossover there, but not going to work. He's going to have a wider line now into Turkey to try to carry a little bit more speed, but he's not going to find an easy way to try to get on by. And indeed, Michael Johnson just slides that car off the apex a little bit to prevent off any attack.
This season's campaign has been wild to say the least. Last time out at Zandvoort, one-time Grand Prix Legends champion Topi Kortiniemi triggered a fireworks show for the lead with 11 laps to go. The Finnish driver made contact with Jukka Toinen to battle for the lead through Tarzan, setting up Timothy Reed's opportunity to pull away by more than 3 seconds for the victory. Now, with the dramatic battle still fresh on some drivers' minds, they still have to take a deep breath because today they'll be taking a trip back in time on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hello everyone and welcome to today's coverage of the Lotus 79 Sunday Grand Prix Series for the penultimate round of the 2022 Season 2 campaign from iRacing's historical version of Silverstone Circuit. My name's Justin Prince. Alongside of the booth today is Jake Sperry, along with our director Ryan Bauer, who's using cameras provided by the great Dougie Beard. As these drivers prepare themselves for what should be an intriguing race, let's take a look at what to expect from Silverstone with our GSRC track guide.
Welcome to Silverstone. Most famously known for being the first circuit to host a round of Formula One, this place has since become synonymous with British motorsports. Hosting everything from sports cars to touring cars to open wheels and even motorcycles, it's a track that fits a wide variety of vehicles. With 5 different layouts to choose from, you've got a little something for any level of racing. The longest of those layouts boasts 17 turns over more than 3 miles or 5 kilometers, so it can take a bit to get around it, even in higher-powered machinery. Its main characteristics on set of turns is definitely the Maggots-Beckett sequence, in which anything with high downforce finds itself challenged with the rapid changes of direction. While there is a fair bit of paved runoff in quick corners like Copse and Stowe, the time lost from going off can be costly. There's a few turns with opportunities for overtaking, including Vale, Abbey, and Priory, but in cars with less horsepower, expect the slipstream to be where many attempt to get by. The Hangar Straight is perhaps the most notorious for draft battles to erupt. All in all, this versatile racetrack located just northwest of London provides both history in its roots and action on the tarmac. The huge number of British fans that typically attend events are seldom left wanting.
That was a look at our GSRC track guide for the historic layout for Silverstone Circuit. And this racetrack is historic to say the very least. It is the home of British Motors Racing, and today could bring plenty of challenges for the Lotus 79s, Jake.
Yeah, it absolutely could. And this track is the one that I remember growing up and watching when I was a child. I looked at this place and this was everything that I loved out of a racetrack. It was fast, it was flowing, everything made sense. We're not running the Abbey chicane here today. We're cutting through that over towards Bridge. But this is a track 5 kilometers long that has absolutely every bit of love and attention brought to it. And what's most important from this layout compared to the modern layout that we've had for about 10, 12 years is that final sector. The start-finish line is on the run up towards Copse, the old start-finish line, and then you've got that run through Bridge and Priory. That is a classic run and is just vintage British and Silverstone racing.
And these drivers ready to drive their vintage machines around the racetrack today. But all of that's while the championship battles are reigning busily and fresh amongst the top of the standings. 135 points separating Partanen and Tolonen coming into today, with Paul Williams in third. With the victory, Timothy Reed's up to 4th position in the standings. You have Janot Frisch rounding up the top 5 of the standings, 285 points separating the top 10 of the standings. And keep in mind, the official scoring system follows the official series, which incorporates all weekly races in turn, which has 4 drop weeks throughout its normal season. And in turn, when it comes to this series, Jake, the drivers have a bit of a team championship as well amongst this layout.
They certainly do, but I just want to point out that championship is decided. Pauli Partanen is the champion for the singles championship, so to speak. Teams championship, a lot closer. Marlboro Team McLaren have that lead by 19 points, but Pauli Partanen has said that if he's got the championship wrapped up, he won't be racing, which means that the Olympus Cameras Wolf team in 2nd position, they have a really good shot today of closing that gap right up and giving themselves a real opportunity today to bring themselves in. That, of course, is Williams, who'll be behind that in the number 11 car today. He'll be really challenging moving forward. You look elsewhere down there, you've got likes of Martini, Lotus, who have maybe a half chance. And look how close it is, 6th, 7th, 8th between Alfa Romeo, Shadow, and Renault out there over the course of the season so far. That's going to be a really interesting scrap to see throughout the splits, throughout the weeks, over the final 2 weeks worth of racing.
Let's take a look at the race details. Meanwhile, for today's action, 29 laps on the docket for the penultimate race of the season. Open setups, no fast repairs available. And there is a drive-through penalty if you reach 17 incident points here today. 25 incident points, you are disqualified from the official session. That's about 90.48 miles the drivers will be racing today, also known as 145.58 kilometers here at this facility today. And the drivers are currently in the midst of solo qualifying, 8 minutes, 2 laps to be able to set their fastest times. The last time these drivers reached Silverstone was back in Season 3 of 2021, and that day it was Marco Kella who picked up the Sunday Grand Prix victory in the 125.7s for the pole time. The world record is in the 122.6s here. As you see on the left side of your screen, the drivers more so around that range of the last time out in 2021 Season 3, around the 125.2s to start, Jake.
Yeah, it's a hot track. It's 37 degrees C, so that being the British temperatures here. Tamás Simon, the Hungarian, going fastest with his second lap, a 1:25.156. There was a little talk that a couple of drivers who have been driving the Mercedes W12E performance would be jumping in. Tamás Simon, Andreas Henkel have been up there fighting in that championship all season long, and they're going to take themselves with a drive here today in these classic Lotuses, and they are going to feel very similar. Okay, classic, but feel a bit similar because it's the same style that they'll be trying to race. They'll be racing with the ground effect, and this would be a great car to use for some practice here, Justin, before iRacing's anticipated release, we do not know when, of the Mercedes W13.
That's a really good point to consider, especially with the changes to the car in general for the package for Formula 1 Grand Prix action in the modern era. But when it comes to today, it's been talked about by some. Lots of slides, pretty big slides in fact. Michael the Turk mentioned to us before today, we're expecting in Comps, Stowe and Club, because this car can be pretty on edge here at Silverstone. Even with the ground effects, few drivers were actually trying to sort out, how do I get the car to not be tail happy in the mid-speed corners off throttle? That could be a major point today, the sliding.
Well, we go from a driver's eyes perspective here with Prix, who has been a multiple-time champion in the Classic Lotus series, and you get an understanding of what makes this car so difficult is you've got a massive honking engine in the back of this car, and you've got to try and put all those horses down on those big rear tires that they've got. The car naturally wants to spin up, and the amount of torque that's generated from this Lotus 79, it just wants to make the car go around. Turbocharged engine on top, it's just an absolute monster as you go around, and you're always trying to be at the end of battling, and it looks like we're going to have qualifying shortened here, Justin, because all drivers have finished their laps.
In fact, the drivers just got the confirmation from the sim that it would be shortening due to inactivity, since every driver has just completed all their 2 laps, except for Timothy Reed, who is pulling to the side. Here's a look at how they'll start for today's action. Tamás Simon will start on the pole today, a 1:25.1 alongside Ascari Rene. Then it is Timo Karolainen will be starting alongside Kotiiniemi. Keep in mind that 5 machine was quick last time out at Zandvoort. Then it's Andreas Henkel set to start in 5th, with Jukka Toinen in the 6th position. Frisk starts in 7th today alongside Alex Millward, who takes an appearance in the Lotus today. Then it's Michael the Turk, we mentioned his name, in 9th. Timothy Reed, after his victory last Sunday, has a tough hill to climb from 10th, Jake.
Yeah, he certainly does. He's a full second off the pace, which is surprising to see. Paul Williams will go from 11th with Dylan Freckleton in 12th. Hervé Trengerade, he's always knocking about the classic machines. He'll start from 13th with Severi Seppa, the 5th of the Finnish drivers that are here today in this 17-car field. It shows you just how strong it is. Gwendolyn Old will start from 15th position with Nicholas Mukanos in 16th. Javier Mosquera rounds out a 17-car field split by what is 2.5 seconds today over qualifying.
It's worth noting that inactivity waiver had been waived because Trangarade is still technically on the track setting a time, but he's currently at the bottom of the circuit, will not have enough time to set it. Timothy Reed also took this time to practice his start several times for the launch for the green flag here today. Now they'll make the way to the starting blocks here, and it was talked about the highest SOFs in Sunday GP history. This does not include the Lotus 79's other dates, mind you. This is for this slot. This race, second highest SOF all time, behind that of the 48.34 of Joni Backman from Zandvoort. This time, it's a 46.70 today.
Yeah, it's a huge strength of field, and that means this will be scoring the most iRacing points out there over the course of a season. And it just shows you the caliber of drivers who want to come in and want to drive. We haven't seen Oscar Irina in there too much. Timo Karjalainen has been up there trying to get some work going. And you look at the drivers who last week were racing for the victory, Tolonen, Preacher, the likes of Reed, they start 6th, 7th, and 10th. It shows you how quick the drivers have come in and look for that run. Watch out, though, on that run towards turn number 1. Drivers in the mid-pack around 8th, 9th, 10th, they've actually got to take that Woodcut corner as they take the start. And with these very, very difficult machines to get off the line, we could see a few problems on the run over towards Copse.
Few drivers taking their last few moments to get their adjustments made. Simone just jumped in about of his Lotus 79 of note to be able to make the final adjustments. 45 seconds the drivers have to be able to set things on up. Who do you think's got it today, Jake?
I'm looking at this one. I think it's going to be Timo Kajalainen. I think the 7 has got the opportunities here to go out, make something happen, get this race in his back pocket. And while Tamas Simon and Oscar Irina look really, really quick over 1 lap, it's about how good you are controlling the car over 29. And I think that inexperience is going to tell in comparison to Timo Kajalainen.
All the drivers have made their way to the starting grid. It's almost time to get those engines revved up and fired. Lotus 79 Sunday GP Series action. All set from Silverstone. Green lights are underway from the UK. And a good start for Simone as he leads the pack into turn 1, off through Copse, heading towards Megans and Beckett's. 2 by 2 in the back part of the group. Henkel off to a solid start as well as some of the Raccoon Racing drivers cycle it out for 3rd and 4th.
Yeah, it's a nice clean start, but now as they run through the S's section, Maggots, and then into Beckett's, and then going through this right of Beckett's, the left of Chapel, and onto the hangar straight for the first time. Everyone making sure that they funnel out single file. The draft's going to be so important on these opening laps to try and make sure you've got enough of a run to get through. Shimon clear, the Hungarian out in front, Rina in second, Kajalainen in third, and it's really stacking up in the mid-pack. Alex Millward looking to try and get aggressive early as he heads to the Vale and trying to get past Jukka Tolonen.
Jukka Tolonen having to go defensive, giving a squeeze to Millward in the battle for 6th, in fact. See that in the backdrop. That's the red, white, and blue machine of Millward to the right side of that battle, alongside the Martini Racing machine and Tolonen. Top grouping those single file, with Simone leading them as the Pied Piper, this time to the final sector of the racetrack off to Brooklands.
Absolutely, and you're seeing just how important it is to get those moves sorted, because Millward has got the pass sorted. Bit of 2 wide as well in the middle of the pack. Paul Williams in a bit of a scrap in the candy-coloured car. He's got Timothy Reed for company out there, and he'll have Michael de Turk just in front of him as well. Williams just ahead now of Reed, but your leaders running through. That's 1 lap then here around this classic Silverstone circuit, and it was worth noting on that run towards turn number 1, a bit of side-by-side. Still they fight towards Copse in the middle of the pack. Reed not giving this one up, actually, as he tries to go through and pushing so hard for it. Freckleton now will start to think about how he wants to go through, and that then ultimately opens up everybody through. Freckleton off the road, and he'll come straight back on and somehow avoids everyone.
Somehow avoids the side of Williams, absolutely. Somehow avoiding his Reed as well. And Freckleton goes from 10th back to 12th, where he started this respective lap. However, 9th on ahead have pulled away with that by 2 seconds. You see some of the craziness now in the second pack as everybody wants to get away from each other 2 by 2, heading their way this time off towards Club.
Absolutely, the likes of Hervé Trengere, Gwendolyn Old, I'm sure they'll want to try and make a move, and all over the back. Reed struggling. Now watch as they come out then of Club Corner. They're allowed to run as wide as they can. They will not get an off-track instant point unless they clip the grass down at that section, so they can use and abuse that section of road as much as they want. Little looks then as they go through in the middle of the pack, on board with Hervé Trengere, the Norwegian driver, as he now tries to work out which way can he get past the Club UK and I driver of Gwendolyn Old, based out of Crawley, as now here comes the chance then going through the very long Brooklands corner, Luffield corner now, and in towards Woodcote, the final section of track. Tamas Simon lighting the timing sheets purple though.
That is 2/10 quicker than the second place driver in line, and Rena at the moment. You also have the 7 machine who ran a 10th off that mark. Here's a look at Henkel, who's 5th in that train, and somehow gaining time by using the rumble strips there. Not how you usually want to handle this track, though, with this car.
No, this is a very, very sketchy circuit with curbs, but the curbs, I think, are flat enough today that if you are, I would say, precise with the way that you can push through some of these corners, someone like Andreas Henkel can go out and really show what he's made of. He's driven in this series before. He knows what it's like, and still 2 wide as they go into Stowe Corner. That's going to be the prime place today. Freckleton and Reed really fighting for it, and they don't really have that natural big braking zone that they would have otherwise. Way out of shape goes Timothy Reed, and he will drop back 1 place, potentially 2 off the exit as they run towards Abbey, and that for Timothy Reed was a big, big moment, outbraking himself and losing the rears.
And nearly ramming the back end of the driver in front, and Old in that matter, as well as Freckleton. Old pulling away from that, Trangarade now with the chance to try and set things up. Keep in mind, very quietly at the back of this pack, you also have Severi Seppa, a name we have seen in the past, really quick on the road courses in several series. He's quietly running 15th in this pack.
He certainly is, and he's actually lost a place over the course of the racing so far today, so he's down 1 from where he started. So there'll be work for Severi to move back up and to charge back through the pack, but he'll be happy at the moment. Now, we do have one car, yes, it is, and it's Alex Millward from 6th position out of the race, spinning it out of Cop's corner, and his race done completely as he was thrown hard into the outside barriers.
He's already pulled off the track, and Millward done for the race. The first DNF had hit the grass along the left side tires and spun it into the barrier before being thrown around like a frisbee. Still looking at some of the battles in some of these packs currently, you still see the Candy Machine still looking to settle things forward. Timothy Reed amongst those drivers in some of the team fights we discussed earlier who need some good points for that team title. Reed in particular, his team 5th entering today.
Yeah, and he'd be certainly looking for opportunities to move forward and to pick up some points, and he's been probably carrying a lot of the load of the points so far at this stage. Driving then through Bridge Corner here, such a commitment corner. You have to get right over to the right-hand side to open up the left of Priory. That is an off-camber left-hander, and it leads to this very, very tight Brooklands. It's a little bit more open now in the more classical run, or more modern run, I should say, which runs off of the Wellington Straight like the national layout does as they go forward. Keep in mind as well, expect drivers to get faster and faster as well here, Justin, as this race goes on. There is no refueling, no pit stops in this race, so the tanks are going to get lighter, and expect time to drop by anywhere between half a second to a second as long as this race goes on.
Keep in mind, this pack does have the matter of Freckleton, because while he's leading this group, remember when he cut through the grass on lap 2, Jake? Well, his front wing's crushed in, the front nose has a lot of scrapes along it, the 12 number has been nearly peeled off the front end, and well, everyone's back in his draft as he nearly broke away. So he might be still up for grabs being passed here. He's lost the draft to Paul Williams.
He certainly has. He'll be giving him a bit of help here, though, the way that the wing is set up through the right-hand corners, and that's kind of important right now because this is a clockwise circuit. Most of the corners here today are right-handers, and with that wing just pointed up slightly, he's got a chance. Speaking of chances, Andreas Henkel has just been stalking the back of Topi Korteniemi out here in the number 5 machine, driving around, looking to try and sense if there's any weakness. Top 5 still split by about 3.5 seconds here out on track, and Andreas Henkel is definitely no slouch. Over 7,000 rating, has had a pro stripe in the past, driving in the Dallara IR01 Championship, and he is certainly someone who is looking to try and find some places and just scout what Korteniemi's got.
Looking like a little bit of that slidiness being used too by Henkel here. As he follows Korteniemi around the racetrack. Biggest mover still, by the way, is Old, +3, who is in the 12th position. But the major thing you notice on the pylon, Simona has nearly broken the draft a couple times already. He's stayed around 1 second to 1.2 seconds ahead of this pack, especially the second on back machines, to try and break away from the rest of the field. That could be critical for the chances later on.
Well, you talk about phases of the race, and the first phase arguably is the most important. It sets a tempo for how you construct the middle and the end. The end is your closer, but there's no point having, for example, in baseball, a closing pitcher when you are down 15-4, for example. That's going to do you no good. That's why you need a good start to races like these. You need to have a good, solid foundation, and that's what Tamas Simon has been doing in comparison to Oscar Irina, and he has certainly proven over the early stages that this isn't going to be plain sailing. He's not going to run away with it, but he does have an extra 10th compared to some very, very quick and accomplished drivers behind him.
You see, nice and calm for these drivers, but if you go to the driver you referred to there, Irina, up the track, he is still in second. The Kova driver's kind of going full-on drift car here. Throughout the entire last section, it was a 4-wheel drift nearly through bridge and left field. That car is really tail-happy. It still worked for the fastest lap.
It did. You're absolutely right. Oscar Irina A loose car is better than a tight car in these machines. If you want to get that rotation through the corners, you absolutely need it. And this is one of the things as well with Formula-style vehicles. To go fast, you need to drive faster. It seems weird to say that, but the faster that you can go through these corners, the more tail happy, the more on the limit that you are, the more downforce you get from the aerodynamics of this machine. And if you got that, as we get some wonderful side-by-side, Timothy Reed to the inside of Dylan Freckleton on the run towards Stowe corner. Freckleton trying to pilot around the outside. That is such a brave defense. Take your cap off to Dylan Freckleton. Well held, sir, as he went through. The key is you've got to try and have confidence in the car underneath you and confidence in the grip to make sure that you have that ability to go around this track and to get the downforce around this place.
Reed wants to try and get himself the run down the hillside to get himself a pass through the farm straight. Still can't get the run through bridge. Tries the crossover for Priory. Now might try it again for Brooklands. No, get boxed in instead. This time by Freckleton. Freckleton not making it easy whatsoever for Reed, and that's the tough thing. Reed, it looks like, feels he's quicker, but no space to get it done yet.
No, and that's something very, very crucial here, is that Timothy Reed's getting a great run through the S's section because of the damage in front, but that right-hander at Stowe, we talked about how that front wing is bent up. That's helping a little bit Dylan Freckleton through the corner. He can really push, and he runs so wide through as we go back to Hervé Trengarade, and he gets really caught up trying to get back onto, find all of that grip. He loses the place immediately then, going in towards Maggot's corner, and that, just like that, is how quickly you can lose a place in such a competitive race like this. Watch out behind as Gwendolyn Old is going to be under pressure here. Trengarade all over the back, but you can see Slipstream is really neutralizing any run coming out of Chapel Corner.
Yeah, the draft here extremely big when it comes to these runs. It's been also talked about air wash can be pretty big, but it makes those chances down the Hayter Straight, as described by Deturk in particular, difficult. If you don't get the line behind someone just right through Beckett's all the way to Chapel.
Yeah, if you don't get that sort of run, you're going to be in a world of trouble. It's all about setup around a track like this. It is so quick. There are only a couple really strong braking points where you can make these moves. And look how close you have to follow. That's a big move, trying to get up the inside of Priory from Hervé Trengarade. He can't get it sorted. Managed to force a slide out of Gwendolyn Old. And Freckleton struggling a little bit in front. Simon, another fastest lap of the race. But you're really seeing here, these drivers are being forced into minor mistakes out there on track. Already, they have had themselves 8 laps scored complete onto the 9th lap of 29. They were almost a third of the way through this race, and you're seeing how hard they have to work. It's like wrestling an octopus sometimes with these machines. They want to drive everywhere on this track.
See, that was Severi Seppa having the viewpoint of those drivers, trying to line up behind Freckleton. Freckleton struggled a couple times in this sector with some of that damage. This time a little bit pushing hard to the left on the corner exit. That might open things up for Old and Trengarade, or possibly Trengarade on Old. Will he be able to try and get the draft? No, too far back currently. Keep in mind, these drivers currently have already lost a second to Reed. That's how big the clean air has been for the 10 in front.
Absolutely, and you get bottled up like, for example, Monaco was today. You're going to be spending a lot of time reading the sponsorship on the back of the cars. So it's going to be a case of, do you want a bit of light reading, the same word over and over again, or do you want some clean air and actually want to go racing? That's where you've got to try and be at your best and try and find these all-important overtakes which lead you forward, going under the bridge again and through Bridge Corner. And again, Trengarade looks really good through this section, but he can't quite find the right angle when it comes to Gwendolyn Old to make the pass and to get forward. Worth noting as well that Timo Karjalainen in third position is just keeping honest, won Oscar Irina and just set the fastest lap of the race, 26.813, only half a tenth quicker as they try and reel back in Tamas Shimon in front.
Here's a look at that group for second and third, 2 seconds up from fourth and fifth. Simon's still absolutely flying, yes, but these drivers have been trading lap times with the race leader. Here and there, it's just seeming to be that difficult part of breaking that bubble that's formed.
Yeah, absolutely, and everyone's going to be trying to drive at an absolute level, same as the Revs really trying to get up. And now you're going to start seeing here, this is going to be a tough race because you are always committed to keeping your foot down. This track is over 60% at full throttle. You are absolutely flying around this place, especially down the two straights. This used to be a former airfield, and this is why these sorts of tracks are always really cool. You look at a place like Sebring, for example, is very similar, as Trengrade still on the back of the Freckleton group. Freckleton doing a good job right now to hold back the pack and to stave off any real troubles, as closer now than ever goes Gwendolyn Old, but not close enough to really make a move happen.
Keep in mind, this is one of the track ports of the circuit, should say, that was considered a major sending point for some, possibly. That run into Priory, outside of getting the draft down the Hainer Straight. And the tough thing is, it's hard to set yourself up to get fully close enough unless you get yourself picture perfect and pixel perfect, as we've seen. And right now, Freckleton, he's kind of been the brick wall for the back half of the field, as we've discussed a couple times here. Outside of when he does this and kicks up sand.
Well, he just pushes a little wide. Gwendolyn Old does follow through that section of road, and it becomes an easy game right now. If you can stay within a tenth and a half, you've got a half chance, and it's all about this exit coming out of Chapel. And now you start to sense why Gwendolyn Old had to be patient through that section of road, because now is here where the chance comes along. Now you start to pick up the draft. And is it going to be a case of moving to the right? Absolutely it is. But Gwendolyn can't find the pass there on Dylan Freckleton. Freckleton had enough to cover it off. It looks like another half a car length is going to be needed to make that sort of move a reality in this sort of race.
Oh, and that makes it easier for the reality. There goes Freckleton to the grass. Freckleton spins it from 11th position. Freckleton did dead last on track as a result.
Well, the back end was stepping out. He was fighting against that slip of grip that he's got, dancing with a limit. He just pushes over it, trying to get the car to rotate back around, and then, oops, there it goes. You can see on screen. And the number 12 car now will have a very, very long day from 16th position to really get too much of anything, really, back in this sort of race. Trengarade hasn't really given up in terms of this fight. He will now see this as, right, one driver's made a mistake. Why can't I get another driver to do the same? This is going to feel very, very similar in terms of that reality to how do I make this pass? How do I get that next position? And this is now a fight for 11th.
See that chance being lined up already by Trengarade. Driving a Honda paint scheme for today's action, trying to get himself positioned here for the draft once more. We'll all try and be defensive here. This has been around the distance it stayed for much of the run amongst these two. Not so much now. Trengarade within a car length. Not close enough for the send. Lips it off to back it up. Waiting for the chance to slip it underneath. Almost gets there.
Almost gets there, almost lost the back end going through the mid part of the corner. The power of dreams stopping him from going around then that section of road. But ultimately for Trengarade, he knows he's pushing. They are absolutely pushing, and they're trying every which way to keep themselves nicely in position, to keep themselves in this race. They know that this is going to be a long and hard-fought battle, and because they are such close proximity, it's going to take a lot to break these two drivers apart over the course of this race. And every time you see drivers pushing more and more, those lap times are going to get slower and slower. Another big slide of torque oversteer comes along for Hervé Trengarade as he tries to figure out the best way to make the pass. And it is slightly spreading out through the top 8, I would say, at this point in time, split by 12 seconds, almost all equidistant.
Top 10 spread by 18 seconds. If you go back to Timothy Reed, who is still trying to reel back in Paul Williams amongst some of the drivers on track. Kartiniemi and Hankel in a grouping for 4th and 5th. This pack, you also have Bucanos, who has taken a trip over from his usual series to hold off Mascarera for 14th position. So a couple different draft packs have formed around the circuit. Will this one see a swap yet? No, Trengarade not able to really pick up at all, in fact, this time. That's too far back.
Yeah, it is, and it's going to be a case of waiting. Now, here's Andreas Henkel, still determined to stay with Topi Kortuniemi here in 4th position. That gap 0.8 of a second over the line, and he's been just quietly working and pushing towards that limit and trying to find the right way to get through. But he is losing time. He's unable to make any inroads on Courtniemi. And you look at the gap, it's almost 2 seconds now to Karjalainen in third place. The chance to get on the podium is really slipping away from Andreas Henkel because he doesn't find the way forward. And that is an almighty lap from Tamas Simon, who went 4/10 quicker than Oscar Irina that last time by. That's a 26.3 from the heavens.
He is blisteringly quick on the long run, and we've seen bits of that in the World Championships last year. You're also seeing bits of that for the one machine from Kovar. Keep in mind, though, give credit to the drivers from Raccoon Racing, who are 3rd and 4th. They've shown some good pace, including Courtniemi, who's still holding on here. They race in a fair bit of different types of cars we've seen on the network.
Yeah, they absolutely have, and this is what you would call the bread and butter of Raccoon Racing's crown jewel. It's normally drivers like Karjalainen that you could put in there, or Courtniemi, I should say. You could see the likes, of Andy T as well, who's comes in, but Topi Courtniemi for Raccoon Racing, he certainly knows that he is in a very good team that drives very well classically, and again, Hervé Trengarade unable to find his pass on Gwendolyn Old. So again, it's another case of waiting here as they go into Club Corner. This long right-hander, and they'll be pushing through this section as much as possible. But it goes back to the point here, Justin, that this is the sort of place where teams are generally more friendly. This might be the run, though. Here on the run in towards Bridge, we'll try and look to the inside. And again, Old just running the outside line, throws a big block in the middle of the road to stop any attacks at Priory. It's every Seppa now there, but this is the place where Raccoon Racing wants to do well. And Trengarade goes around.
Trengarade spins it around from 12th spot, trying to make the move. And that was the same spot he got a little slidey last time by. This time it spins him around.
Sometimes you're just pushing and pushing and pushing. You're looking to try and find the right place. And the one place where I think you see more instance than any other is not during the high speed, it's during the low speed with these machines. Very difficult to find that mechanical grip in these cars. You're always looking to try and feather the throttle through certain corners, and ultimately I think Trengarade finds himself on the wrong side of it, and that's just how easily you can find yourself in the wrong position in a race like this. There is your race leader, by the way, Tamas Simon, who is absolutely blistering forward, and he knows that he wants to build a gap, and when he builds a gap like this, can be nigh on unstoppable. We have seen it so many times with the iRacing Grand Prix series and the W12E performances that when Tamas Simon gets the lead, seldom does he relinquish.
Yeah, that gap right now, nearly 2 full seconds. Here's a look at his fellow competitor from that championship we keep referring to, Henkel. The interesting thing I noticed with the paint scheme here is, since many teams, as mentioned, do follow the theme of their own team groupings, Henkel in this case is having the backing, so to speak, throwing back to a paint scheme that would be fitting in the day where Ampex, the brand you see on the car, was one of the first audio tape recording companies back in the day.
Yeah, and we've seen it quite a bit, actually, with Formula One style sponsorship, that they will always try and push to some very, very new and exciting opportunities. I believe 8 of the 10 teams right now have a cryptocurrency brand for part of sponsorship, and we can say yes or no in terms of whether that's a good idea or not, but they are always trying to push and find new ways and new revenues and new streams to get certain types of sponsors on, and it's these classic machines like these that absolutely find the great place to, I would say, be recreated. And that's why inventions like trading paints, for example, has been revolutionary to iRacing's ability to push forward as a very viable and commercial sim, because effectively you can run anything you want, anytime you want with programs like that, which really gives you that opportunity to say, well, I'm driving something that I absolutely love and I have a huge affinity with.
And as well, race to the themes of the times. And by the way, you hit upon the cryptocurrency part. It's worth noting the brand that is on that card we're talking about, Henkel. It was spun off in 1995, for those curious. Here's a look, meanwhile, at Freckleton, who's continuing his recovery drive. He's trying to reel in Mecanos, and Mecanos, who has left wing damage, nearly checks up the pack.
He does check up the pack. That's the key. And then very, very nearly going through as Javier Mosquera trying to search for the angle on Freckleton. Didn't quite manage to get there, though. Had to leave a little bit of room then, as we've got 13 laps to go here at this Silverstone circuit. And really, for Javier Mosquera, that was a case of eyes bigger than the belly. Sees Freckleton run wide there with that small mistake and just couldn't put the power down early enough. They have to stay single file in that train. And now Nicolas Mucanos will have to start running with all of that defensive style of driving, which he would have picked up in the Camel GT series.
It's going to be very important for Mucanos to try and hold on here. He's +3 on the race. One of the biggest movers, in fact, here. After starting the very tail end of the pack in the 127. Oh boy! Freckleton with the send sends them both up the track. Mucanos goes to the sand to try and gather it up. Both of them drop to the tail end of the field.
He tried everything to stay out of the way. We'll see it on the Global SimRacing Channel replay. He just tried to get out of the way. He missed his braking point here. You can see he's got himself under pressure, and he's trying to outbrake the car that's on his inside. The moment he wins that battle of, okay, I've broken lanes with my opponent, what's next? Oh, there's a car in front of me, and he tried everything. He put the car broadside to try and avoid the incident, but ran out of road. It was almost a carbon copy to what Courtiniemi had 1 week ago at Zandvoort.
Just as we were showing that, and just in the moment now, some of the drivers who they were battling with are struggling. The 16 has gone off the track. Last corner section, the same thing happened to Trengarade. Everybody 13th on back is starting to hit the struggle bus.
Yeah, it's Mosquera who's gone around that, and once more doing the same thing that Hervé Trengaré did, just not having the grip through the final stage of the corner to put the power down. You have to wait for that mechanical grip to really settle back up again, and suddenly, goodbye, Mosquera is now in that group and is really having to race. And I think Mucanos here is damaged in some respects. He's just trying to make him way to the end of the race, because that was Mosquera going around. There goes again. Dylan Freckleton, the rear of the field, suddenly has ignited in terms of this one, and I think everyone's going to be struggling a little bit. The amount they've been spinning around and having issues at the back, they're going to be very worried in the final stages of this race for their incident point count.
Just the one DNF so far. Freckleton to the back of the pack, and what has turned into musical chairs for 13th on back. Looking out on board from 5th, where the musical chairs, well, everybody said, I want to keep my chair. I don't want to swap my chair yet. I'm fine here. That's the best way to put it. By the way, the 1 has ran away from the 7 by 2 seconds as everyone went crazy in the back.
Absolutely, and you're seeing the times that are coming in. 26.3 from Simon, 26.2 from Oscar Irino. That's the fastest lap of the race. You follow that up, Kaya Leinen, 26.3. Courtiniemi was at 26.6, and that's why Henkel's a little bit closer this lap through, 26.3. Get himself up and underneath, but he's not close enough yet to make a move. He's trying to find the right way, the right angle to make that happen, but again, everyone is so evenly keel at this point in time. Everyone has the same pace that everybody else has. Yes, this is an open setup league, but, oh, you could say official, it's always open setup with this sort of thing. But what you can say is that everyone sort of knows what it takes to make the car go quick, and everyone is running very similar lap times because they are pushing at 100%, and they cannot break a way through any which way, shape, or form they search for it.
And don't forget, when it comes to this series, there are community setups provided by Michael de Turk amongst those, as well as from a few others, to help give the assistance to those who want to learn how to drive this car and join in on the fun, especially with there being 10 laps to go in today's fun action.
Yeah, certainly. Tamas Simon again, fastest lap, finally breaks into the 26.1s with that run. Now, keep an eye out on car 10, Timothy Reed. He's got back to where he started. It's been a long slog to get himself back to the rear of car number 11, Paul Williams, who's driven very well today, up 2 spots. We have to note as well that the top 7 have remained unchanged from their grid slots so far in this race. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 running the same, but Timothy Reed, of course, winner last time out, He's really trying to ratchet away up to 9th position. This is important for Paul Williams that he can stay in this position because, of course, he is fighting with that team's championship, trying to stop the McLaren crew who are down to just one driver now. So this is a case of must score points for Paul Williams. If he cannot hold on to this 9th place, then he will be really dropping the ball, I would say, heading in towards the final round of the championship.
You mentioned the one driver. How about today no drivers in top split competition? Keep in mind, Jake, there are 2 splits we hit upon. Lopez would be that second driver outside Partonen, and remember, Lopez is not in this split. So that could be huge for Wolf Racing depending on how things break down there with Williams in this pack. West was practicing earlier. He might be in that second group.
Yeah, that certainly would be like the case that I'd be expecting. I believe Barry West is someone who's always racing around and always tries to put himself up in and around top split if he can, but this is such a strong strength of field. I wouldn't call it a disrespect for a driver like Barry West to be down in the second split. I know there's a lot of drivers here. I'm looking down at drivers like Gwendolyn Old, for example, in the 15 car. You know, 3,500 iRating is enough to be 15th in a field like this. I know a lot of splits and series in the likes of iRacing where 3,500 pretty much guarantees you top split anywhere. This might be one of the few series where it doesn't necessarily. Did today for Gwendolyn Old and the likes, of course, of Trengren and Mosquera, but it's never a guarantee. 3,500 iRating, which you would say would be sacrilege about 2 or 3 years ago.
Can confirm both of those drivers we referred to are in second split competition looking to score points. They're down to 13. They started with 16. Just giving a hint on how things are going there. And the interesting thing, Jake, on that SOF side and when it comes to iRating, years ago, 4,000 was considered good. 2019, it was 5,000. Now it's 7,000 to be decent in some people's cases, and depending on your field of car.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is what happens when you have a strength of field system like you do with iRacing. The more people that you have in the service, the more iRating there is in the service, because everyone starts at about 1250 and you plus and lose depending on it. So naturally that bar will go higher and higher and higher. I always remember Jimmy Broadbent, of all people. He said he loved the day back in 2015 that he could turn up with a certain team with 3,000 iRacing and he'd make top split. Someone like Jimmy Broadbent now, as you can see, really following the draft then is Andreas Henkel compared to Topi Korteniemi in 4th position. You'd say that now he struggles to make 3rd split, 4th split of races, and everyone says, oh, which one's Jimmy's split? Is this Jimmy's split now? Because he can't get himself up into the top races and the top split without being piggybacked by about 8,000 iRacing drivers.
And for those watching along and wondering why Jimmy Broadbent just came up, no, he is not in this split today. 7 laps to go, coming up this time by. Henkel still wants to find a way around here. He is getting the closest he's been to the number 5 throughout this run, and partly because of the curb, leading to Topi sliding. What a drift around for the Raccoon Racing Machine.
Yeah, and you're really starting to see how much pressure's being put on here. You stay behind a driver for the entirety of a lap, and then all of a sudden, you know that it's a no-mistake style of day that you've got to go forward with, you've got to attack. I have also been keeping an eye on Oscar Irina. He was 7/10 slower 2 laps ago. He's responded magnificently with a 25.9, but ultimately, in terms of the racing that we've got going on, drivers are starting to find faults and find mistakes, and it's those drivers who are pretty much robotic in the way that they're going around and hit the same points 29 times in a row that they are going to go win this race. And now here comes the chance for Andreas Henkel. Just a little look into the mirrors. He's trying to distract Korteniemi in the braking zone. That is rule 1 of the Sim Racer's handbook to how to make an overtake. Doesn't quite work this time, but that's why you apply it multiple times over the course of a race.
And it can take multiple laps.
Too wide going around that section of road. Want to make a clean overtake down there at that section of track. That's his first prerogative at this moment. So can he make that happen? Simon again with the fastest lap, but Henkel here knows he wants to get through. He wants to get this overtake done, and this might be the only thing he's racing for, 4th place. So he's going to have to wait for the time is right inside of these last 6.
Has to be patient, has to be smart when it comes to all this. We'll see how Henkel tries to play this. He's been trying to go a little bit more of a diamond line. Not been able to get himself set up fully as the run through back gets off to the Hainer straight this time. Still sees him 5 car lengths back, closing down to 3. Coming up to 5 laps to go. And for those wondering about the traffic, it's currently not projected to possibly reach Simone, but it depends on what happens to McConnell's and Freckleton, it is worth noting, because Freckleton's had a few spins since the last time we checked on the 12. McConnell's is currently 1 minute and 13 seconds behind the leader. It could be close if Simone reaches traffic for the battle for the back. Just to mention them, Freckleton has popped off the racetrack. He is done.
Yeah, retired a car. He can't get himself through without 17 instant points, so I don't blame him. The car pretty much undrivable by sheer number of instants that he has been brought into today. A real shame, but still this scrap continues between Henkel and Courtiniemi. Courtiniemi has done more than enough in this race to prove why he's such a good driver. He's just been holding on to the likes of Henkel behind and saying, I'm going to hold you at an arm's length, and if you can't get by me, that is your fault, not mine, because he has driven so well within his limits to make sure that Andreas Henkel does not get an opportunity to sniff down the inside and to make that move happen. He has just been putting the car in effectively A1 position every single lap.
Big drifting you've seen there for Henkel, keep in mind, nearly sideways several times again. After all the same, Lotus is fast, going for very big loosies. Going through Maggots and Beckett's, that was the expectation. Here's the luck of the battle for 9th position, and it took him nearly the whole race to get here, remember. After battling hard with Freckleton, Reed has caught back up to Williams with a chance to leapfrog past the Olympus Cameras back machine. Remember, that car is a part of Wolf Racing.
Yeah, and they're pushing so hard right now. They're actually catching Michael de Turk at a rate of knots. So 2 seconds that gap, and that was closing as well. So don't count Michael de Turk out of this battle either. One small mistake from him, and he's right in the middle of this.
Currently about 1.5 seconds or so, 2 seconds up the track, depending on how things fare out. For the next 4 laps for this battle, Reed needs to find a way to close if he wants the chance, though. 3 car lengths back currently after some of the off tracks. You see those lap times continue to get faster and faster, as the expectation was to be. He's right now running 2/10 quicker, Simone is, than the pack.
I'd say it's more than that. Tamas Simon of 25.5 on that last lap was 6/10 quicker than Oscar Irina on that last go through. 7/10 faster than Karjalainen as he looked to try and go by. So that is absolutely mega, and he is just styling at this point. Reed still there on the back of Paul Williams, but Williams knows he's just got to make sure he's hitting his marks going through the corners. He's so aggressive on the run up towards Beckett's there, that left before Beckett, because he knows that he cannot afford to allow anything to happen, and he immediately moves over to that left-hand side then. Took him a little bit of time, but if you're within 1.5 seconds, you've got a chance to use the slipstream from the likes of the car in front of Michael de Turk to just pull you along these straights, and that's what Paul Williams needs to bank on right now, is closing up to the back of Michael de Turk, and that will give him all the buffer he needs to not worry about overtaking. You will worry, though, if he lands the back step out like that, because here's going to come the chance for Timothy Reed. He's going to look now to the outside here through Abbey, now over towards Bridge. He's got the inside line. One small mistake, and thank you very much. He gets it sorted on the outside track.
What a move and what a bobble, and a mistake coming that time out of club. Timothy Reed now looks to try and hold on tonight. Just a +1 of the race, but a big recovery from Reed after being as far back as 6 seconds from this spot at one point during the race.
Tolan's just done a complete 360 at turn 1 Copse Corner, so hasn't lost a position, but that would have been a huge shock for him in 6th place. He had about a 6-second gap. That gap has really closed down. Jenna Friecher, the Austrian, now has a really good chance of taking 6th.
This is one of the Martini Racing Team Lotus machines you're looking at, and you're right on the 360. This may go a little bit to a highlight reel if we can take the quick glance, because you talk about a 360, a spin and keep going. How about the spin and win, remember, for the Indianapolis 500-mile race in the 70s? Tolan had a spin and keep going for 6th.
He didn't even have a scope in his car. That was a brilliant 360. He manages to get himself back going again. Didn't lose the position, but it just shows you, even when you're on your own, you switch off for one moment here around a very, very fast Silverstone circuit, you're going to be pretty much in a world of trouble, because this track just has an ability to make people look very, very foolish. And the one time I remember overall was in the wet 2008 British Grand Prix. Felipe Massa, who went on to fight for the title, spanned 6 times that day.
That's a lot of spins. And it is pretty difficult to keep the car going in a full 360 like that. Even more so in a 720. You still see, meanwhile, Simone leading with about 2 to go coming up around this time by. And what has been a busy day, coming up to 1 to go. Keep in mind, Old and Seppa are fighting currently for 11th. Reed and Williams still group for 9th. Toinen has Prix group for 6th. A lot of battles getting close. Points paying time coming up in a lap and a half.
Yeah, and he's still got these battles, and everyone's trying to find that extra 1 position on a race like this. Severi Seppa started 14th, up 2 spots. Gwendolyn Old, they're up 4, and this is going to be a case where Seppa is all over heading towards Copse. Just has to sit out of it. You can see that wash going through Copse corner there. Lost about 2 or 3 car lengths going through that section of track, and now through Maggots, and now through this left, which turns up to Beckett's corner here, the right, and Chapel, the left. Nobody really truly knows what Maggots, Beckett's, Chapel is. They think it's just those S's. There's 4 corners and 3 names for it, so figure it out as best you can. But Severi Seppa, now with a chance, will look to go towards the inside. Thought about it, but ultimately it's just going to be a thought. Gwendolyn Old not moving at all over the course of the racing, not willing to budge any point in time as we head to the final lap of the race.
White flag already triggered by Simone. Seppa, keep in mind, in the Ferrari in that fight. Meanwhile, Simone, he's been a rocket ship today. 6/10 quicker the majority of the time in the closing stages. He has not left the 125-second bracket since lap 23 outside of 1. What a run for Tomas Simone again.
Yeah, Tomas Simon has proven that his class is not determined by car, that it is permanent, and that he's been driving in such a way that he's just made everybody else in this field look very, very average by comparison. He has found 0.8 of a second on this final lap. I think he's pushing for the fastest lap possible here on this last lap as well, and this just goes to prove what sort of drives him. He's got that Michael Schumacher helmet. He wants to do the best at every point in time. 4-7 titles, and he knows that he has been on top of the world today, better than anybody else once again.
For Tomas Simone, coming out of the final corner, coming out of left field off to Woodcote. Simone dominates at Silverstone. He wins in a Lotus 79 Sunday Grand Prix Series here in the UK. Second goes to Rinne, followed by Kinnerleinen along with Korteniemi. Henkel, the top 5 on circuit. 6th place, Toinen holding on after the spin. One driver did cut the grass, worth noting, shuffling to Turk, Reed, and Williams up a spot apiece. That is Prix, who would cut the corner through Maggots on the final lap to drop himself to the back end of the top 10, Jake. What a day.
Yeah, he had no choice with it, really, and I think it's worth a replay to have a look at it, because on the last lap, Maggots Beckett, he's just aggressive over the first curve, and it's that transfer of weight. The car just snaps, he spins, and has to recover through the grass to go forward.
Yep.
Battle's still on, though, here down in the final positions. It looks like Severi Seppa isn't going to get the drive off the exit of Luffield corner to get by Gwendolyn Old. Great fight from Gwendolyn there, up 4 spots. That's really well done, but I think there for Geno Fritzsche, I think that is the important one to look at on the final lap. You can see goes through the left, that transfer of weight, the car just snaps on him going through the left just before Beckett's, and then ultimately he's going to have to take a drive through the grass, and that is sometimes the most debilitating feeling as a driver, having to go through. Very nearly rolled it there, going up over the service road.
That explains. In Sim, there was a quick press of the button for Williams. Usually that's the sign of thank you or what are you doing. Either way, we'll take a quick break. Post-race coverage right after this. You're watching GSRC from iRacing's virtual Silverstone circuit.
just barely catches it. Now Limon is going to try and overtake on Fonseca. Fonseca gives that one up. Almost a little too wide there for Limon. Holds tough and sending it deep around the banking. And Shell Oil, he's going to take the spot back. Fonseca, that was a brilliant move. This is full drift here from the Japanese driver. Watch this. Unreal. That car should not be still going. That is just seat of your pants stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it just kind of landed a little bit wrong for him, but fortunately, at least pointed in the right direction. This was crazy, though.
And hasn't been shaken, but man, they see close to that wall.
Look at it. Look at the oversteer. He looks to the inside. Michael tried to cover off. He's going to squeeze him down a little bit. Tries to open up the corner. Cut back and see if he can get the launch, and it's much quicker off. Oh, but he covers him down to the inside.
Oh my goodness, covers him down to the inside. I think there may have been a little bit of contact there, but Michael Johnson going to get the benefit of the draft here. You can see him closing down on the back of the 79. And there's the late move from Michael going down to the inside, trying to get into the braking zone.
The red mist is up for these two, and down into the braking. Can Johnson get it done? Yes, he does. Don't count out Travis. Tries to cut back. Goes the long way around. Nothing doing. No, he holds tight. He could try and get it in there. No, now he starts to fall back.
Starts to fall back, gonna try to send it a little bit on the outside of 15. Sometimes you can get a crossover there, but not gonna work. He's gonna have a wider line now into Turkey to try to carry a little bit more speed, but he's not gonna find an easy way to try to get on by. And indeed, Michael Johnson just slides that car off the apex a little bit to prevent off any attack.
Welcome back to iRacing's virtual Silverstone circuit for post-race coverage of the Lotus 79 Sunday Grand Prix Series, where Tomas Simon dominated to win by 5.498 seconds over Ascari Rinne. Then you have Timo Karvalainen in third, then Kortiniemi and Henkel, your top 5, 11 seconds to separation. Tolinen spun around and held on to sixth to hold off the Turk and Company. De Turk finished ahead of Reed and Williams, while Frichet, after his mistake on the final lap, recovers to still finish in 10th in what was a busy day for some Jake.
Yeah, it really was. Your biggest gainers in the field you find down here, but not many positions. Only a gain of 4 the best for Gwendolyn Old, 15th up to 11th, with Severi Sepa in 12th position. Hervé Trengarade was up, down, all around. He finishes where he started in 13th, with Javier Mosquera, the last finisher on the leading lap, finishing off in 14th position. Buchanos would take a pit stop today. He'd fall a lap down and finish in 15th, staying out of the way of everyone, with Dylan Freckleton's spins heavily documented today over the course of the race. He ends up 16th, and Alex Millward, with a huge snap of oversteer on the AstroTurf on the outside of Copse Corner, finds himself with a heavy crash, the only real retiree back there in 17th place.
That's all top to bottom Matt, the running order here for today's action in official iRacing session action, as Timo is standing by for today's post-race coverage and joins us here in the broadcast booth. Timo, how was it like from your perspective, third position on the podium?
Pretty good. Definitely felt like I left some speed on the track. I think qualifying mattered the most here, and should have really jumped Thomas there, but we let him get away this time.
How would you describe the racing from your perspective? Because a lot of drivers kept it clean, especially up at the front. In fact, about half the field, not a single incident point.
Yeah, very clean. Obviously a very high soft, which means there's a lot of very good drivers in the split. For me, personally, it was just about hitting marks. And honestly, this historic Silverstone especially, there's not a lot of places to get a 1X from going off track, because off track is basically death.
Well, the last race of the campaign will bring these Lotus 79 machines off to Spa. And I'm not talking about the Spa treatments. I'm talking about Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. Your thoughts for the finale?
Definitely a great piece of track and very fun to drive. It's never been my best ones, but I'm really looking forward to it.
Anyone you want to thank for your run today?
My team, Raccoon Racing, and congrats to Thomas. What a beast, I have to say. Unbelievable speed, as always. And thanks to all my friends, thanks to Mirka, thanks to Peter, if he's watching. I think that's about it. Oh, my mom, of course. Hello, Mom.
Congratulations on the run.
Thank you.
Timo coming away with the third place, started in that position. In fact, the top 6 all held station today, Jake. Your opinion on how things fared out here today as Simone dominates by more than 5 seconds to win it?
First and foremost, always thank your mum in interviews. I think that really does go to show that you work with everything you've got and that every person in your life that helps and influence you builds you up. But Tamas Simon is just money talent. He was a driver who was in and around the top 10 when it came to the Force Dynamics Dallara IR01 Grand Prix Championship, and was the sort of driver who was always getting better and better as the racing went on when it came to the top. The only sort of drivers who were really beating him on a consistent basis in that car were drivers who you would say would be the tip of the top and have been for nearly over a decade when it's come to sim racing. Drivers like Martin van Loosenoord, drivers like Peter Berryman and Johan Hart. Those were the sorts of drivers that were only capable of beating Tamas Simon. He is a really, really good driver. Oskar Irina, Timo Karjalainen, it's not talked about enough, but the Finnish drivers and the Finnish community, they've really bonded around this car over the last 4 or 5 years. They used this car so often when it came to the World Cup of iRacing back 2017, 18, 19, because they knew that they could drive this car, and a lot of other communities really struggle with it. So someone like Tamas Simon coming in, proving that he has got more pace than a lot of these top Finnish drivers, and of course Andreas Henkel on top of that as well. I think he's a cut above, and he proved so again today why he is one of the best sim racers in the world.
Absolutely, an absolutely dominating run for Tomas once again here today at Silverstone. And on that note, we'd like to thank the Lotus 79 community for taking part in what was an exciting race today here in the UK. And I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in to watch today's action here on GSRC. We'd like to thank the companies who provide the software and hardware for broadcast listed on your screen. Additional thanks to Jude Lawn, who provides our wonderful music. Check out our Bandcamp for more of our awesome work. Thanks to today's team and Jake, Ryan, and Dougie. You can find more info about GSRC at globalsimracingchannel.com or through our social media on screen. Also check out the merchandise store at gsrc.storyvy.com. Keep the link in the description down below. Don't forget to visit and subscribe to said YouTube channel as you follow along and don't want to miss a moment here on GSRC. The next race as talked about is set to be at Spa, as these drivers will be racing at the GP Pits layout of Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps Sunday, June the 5th. That is at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 4:30 p.m. GMT. You don't want to miss it to close out the 2022 Season 2 campaign. We also have upcoming races for other series listed up on screen, so be sure to check those out and mark them down in your calendar. And don't forget, in less than 30 minutes time, Absolute Beginners hits the racetrack for its action at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. Cover starts for round 6 of the campaign at 2 p.m. Eastern Time here on GSRC. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.